Odyssey Sports Station. WROCAM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey Sports Station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence coming your way here in my hometown of the Flower City. Good afternoon, Gene Battaglia with you, as you can join us at any time. Our phone number, 866-4326. You can write to us on X, our handle, The Fan Rochester. You can watch on YouTube or Twitch. We have plenty of ways for you to consume our program, and if you can't do it in real time, here from 1 to 3, just download the Odyssey app, and you can go back and listen. We have Dan DeLorean working behind the scenes to get segments up for you online to listen on demand, if you will. Joining us also once again today, our fine producer, Terrible Take Timmy. I've known Timmy for years. We actually met at Champs out at Eastview Mall.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, and so with that, it was, long time ago, right? So with that, I do remember, you wanted to get into this business, and, you weren't smart enough to walk away. The reason I'm bringing this up today, Tim, is because everything kind of comes full circle. So if you listen to, I don't want to call it the old show because Danger's still in the building and you're listening to our station, but the previous iteration of the Sports Bar from 3 to 6, you always heard my partner Danger talk about his neighborhood. He would always say, hey, all these guys that listen to the show. And by the way, I know you're listening. You're saying, hey, I told you, the show's not as good without Danger. What did I tell you? For me, it's not my neighborhood guys. It's the guys I went to college with. It's Andy and Dennis and Brian and Big Daddy and Heavy D and Worm and Late Johnny Mead. It's those guys that you build those bonds with, and I'm always on a text chain. So this story I'm going to tell you is a little self-deprecating. So I'm in college, and I knew pretty much early on what I wanted to do, and that's this. I'm blessed to be doing this in Rochester, right? So I'm in school, and I get to be known as kind of the radio guy who's covering all the sports teams at Fordham, right? So one day we just kind of doing what guys do, right? We're just kind of trading insults, just back and forth, and there's this guy, Amato. And by the way, my friends, too, they're all way more successful than I am. Amato is a lawyer in Philadelphia. My friend Andy is like wealth. Dennis, big-time lawyer in New York City, and I'm doing radio here in Rochester. This is what I want to do, right? So I'm trading insults with Amato, and there's all these other guys around, and he hits me back with, well, look at you. You're wearing radio clothes, which made absolutely no sense. I couldn't even tell you what I was wearing at the time.
It was your sweater, almost like a cardigan.
No, I don't know what it was, Tim, but from that point on, I could be wearing a suit. I could be wearing a Mets jersey. Hey, nice radio clothes. It just became the thing that kind of stuck with me. So by me sharing this, I know I'm going to be out somewhere and be like, oh, haha, radio clothes kind of thing. Well, I'm telling you this because now that we're on YouTube and not everybody is familiar with Terrible Take Timmy, lot of comments from the college guys about you and your radio clothes, Tim.
Oh,
Monday,
it was my radio clothes.
Your radio clothes.
I misunderstood when you said that. I thought that they were talking about you. I didn't realize they were talking about me. So
no, like way back when I was in school. Yes, but now you are wearing the radio clothes. Monday, Emmerich sweater. Tuesday, Bana, and today is the Red Wing motif. So I knew you would take this in stride. You, if you watch right now, I'll put you up on camera. You're wearing the radio clothes.
There is no dress code. The dress code is to show up. Here I am. This is actually probably some of my nicer radio clothes.
I have a great show lined up here for you today. Well, by the way, we'll get to that in a second. We will also get to, we have our first listener submission for a new theme song for the show.
Excited for that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, what I would say is anybody that wants to take a crack at it, the rules are kind of simple. One, you have to give us license to use it, okay? You have to, like, I give you permission to use this, okay? And you have to know, like, you can't just use AC/DC or something like that. Like, there was a professional sports team that was using AC/DC, and like, no, you can't use that in a commercial, right? So, like, there are licensing issues. So you have to avoid the license. All the music has to be kind of on your own, number one. And number two, you have to give us permission to use it. So we have our first submission. We'll review it. We'll see if this sticks here. We had the one before from Sean from Long Island. This is not from Sean from Long Island. This is from somebody different. So we will have a potential new theme song coming up. Bottom of this hour, very excited to be talking to Mr. Amherst himself. He is joining us in studio, the great Jody Gage. Number 9, Jody Gage. Now, Jody Gage was at the arena signing autographs last Friday, which is really cool because if you were in town in 1996, the 2016 thing was like kind of a thing that was trending, which I get. 1996 was awesome. If you lived in town with the Amherst winning the cup, it was a great run, wearing those Stars and Bars sweaters, and was a team that you knew all the personalities, and Jody Gage being the elder statesman by that point. Jody Gage, over 1,000 points in the American Hockey League. And Jody Gage decided, Rochester's my home afterward. And I think we all respected that. We do respect it. Another guy who did that too, loved character from that team, Matter. And it was last March that we lost Matter. And the Amherst this Friday night, this will have a different tone to it certainly, but we're going to celebrate the life of Scott Metcalf. And who better to talk about this than his former teammate, Jody Gage. Jody Gage, bottom of this hour, in studio, talk a little Amherst hockey and talk about what's going to be happening as the Amherst will take on Laval this Friday night. Hour number 2, as we will every Wednesday, our betting expert, I'm going to say college basketball expert, PJ Glasser will join us as this is the last week in February, in case you didn't know. We are headed to March, which means, hey, that sport, college basketball, you really like every year, and you fill out the bracket, but you haven't really paid attention to all year, and you're going to pretend like you really know what you're talking about. Well, no, this is the time where you can kind of pick up. You don't have to be invested in a sport from day one. We are pretty much with the NFL. Some people are with hockey, some aren't. If you are one that, hey, hockey season begins for me right after football season, that's totally fine. It's totally fine. But for college basketball, sure, you might be a fan of the Orange or like Timmy here, a fan of Bana, and you like your team, but I think most of us couldn't tell you, all right, give me who should be not a number 1 seed, but you would think would have a good chance to make the Final Four. I don't know. Okay, well, look, we're going to kind of explore that along the way. PJ Glasser will join us next hour. Always time for your calls, comments. Our handle, The Fan Rochester, phone number 866-4326. We also have the Combine going on. Some scheduling notes, a couple more international games, teams committing to that stuff in the NFL as, again, the center of the football universe is in Indianapolis. The table is set. So for years, we had Dandelion making a custom open, but then we had the show open, meaning like kind of a song at the beginning. But we had to retire the previous one because Mike Danger's no longer a part of the show, right? So you are welcome to send this in. Timmy, do you have this, by the way? Okay, we're ready to go with this? Okay, okay. So everybody be the judge. Should this be our next theme song here at the Sports Bar?
The Bills always find a new way to lose the game, and Joe from Schenectady calls up to complain. He's got the Amerks on the line, talking about Chuck Muncie back in his prime. But Mike Danger's gone, and that's okay, 'cause life goes on here at the Sports Bar today. Yeah. Life goes on, we're doing fine, with Gene Battaglia on the air tonight.
That is Joe from Schenectady writing in and working himself into the open. Now, let's break this down. Points for creativity.
It's good.
It's good. Points for creativity, getting the Mike Danger's gone, kind of acknowledging that, and we move on. We move on. Like, the show, the station should be bigger than any one particular person, including myself, including Danger. So we kind of move on, right? I like that. I like the upbeat. I'm willing to look past the Gene's on the air tonight. Looks at watch. It's 1:10 in the afternoon here in Rochester. Right? All right.
Sometimes it flows better with
You're right. Yeah, Gene's on the air this afternoon. No, I guess that wouldn't cut it. The other part to that, though, is everybody play. Can you play this again, Tim?
Yeah.
There's one glaring error to this.
The Bills always find a new way to lose the game. And Joe from Schenectady calls up to complain. He's got the Amerks on the line, talking about Chuck Muncie back in his prime. But Mike Danger's gone, and that's okay, 'cause life goes on here at the sports bar today. Life goes on, we're doing fine, with Gene Battaglia on the air tonight.
I love the Chuck Muncie drop. I know the Bills choking the game at the beginning or whatever that line is, that's gonna upset some people. The hockey team here is called the Amerks. Now, Schenectady is not that far across from the state, but if you're listening to this show, I would hope you would know that's the name of the team here in Rochester. I am so old, I remember President Reagan, re-election, 1984, and he gets up and he's right on the steps of what's now the Blue Cross Arena, then War Memorial, and he says, somebody put this in his ear, I'm trying to go for 2-0, but your Mercs are going for 10-0. And they're like, oh, yeah. And that's the year where the Amerks actually started out, I forget, 13-0, 14-0. Again, I'm old. I remember that as a kid. No, I think that will the Amerks. You can't say Mercs here. I can't have that as the new Joe. I give you points for creativity.
Great first draft.
But I'm also going to point this out too. That's AI, isn't it? I'm thinking that is an AI song where if you're putting in the bullet points. And how do you pronounce Amerks? Well, the computer isn't going to know a Rochester accent saying Amerks. That's an interesting one. So, Joe, thank you. I'm going to give it a B. We'll take more submissions if somebody wants to take a crack at it. But I because the Amerks is mispronounced, I have to DQ it.
Solid baseline. If we improve upon some of the flaws, there's something there.
Jody Gage is here. Let's break a little early because I
Deal.
want to dive into some Amerks talk with Jody Gage. You're always welcome to join us at 866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia. This is WGR Rochester.
You're
0% on Outlander PHEV for 72 months. Offers don't combine.
Cashback is not available.
Sports Update.
We're back to hockey tonight. The Amherst are in Cleveland. Andrew Mossbrooks will have the call here on WGR Rochester beginning at 7 o'clock. Head coach Mike Leone and the Amherst on the opponents.
They're really deep. They're really good defensively. They're just a really good team. I think they're one of the best teams in our division. I would put them up against Laval. They've gone to a lot of overtime games. We actually have more regulation wins than them. I think they've been to legally 19 overtime games, and they've won a lot of those games. They're good in overtime. They're good in the shootout.
Mr. Amherst himself, Jody Gage, to join us next here in studio in the Sports Bar. Sabres are back at it tonight, too. 25 games left in the regular season for Buffalo. Sabres in New Jersey, that can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. Final weekend of the regular season for the RIT Tigers. Friday night, they play at Holy Cross. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Rochester's home for live sports and the best sports talk anywhere. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Yeah, I'm so ready for hockey to be back after what happened on Sunday. As joining us in studio, Mr. Amherst himself. And we've talked over the years. I don't know if we've ever had you in studio, though. Jody Gage joining us. Jody, how are you this afternoon?
Good. I've been in the studio, but I think it was a lot of years ago.
A lot of years ago,
yes.
Maybe that's what it was. They all kind of run together here. Jody, do people still stop you at Wegmans or Home Depot? Do they want to talk Amherst hockey? How is it for you being so identified with this franchise over the years?
I get stopped, but a lot of times people recognize or they say and they leave me alone. It's a mixed bag, and it's usually the older generation. The younger generation doesn't recognize me as much.
Yeah. Do you? What makes it all so special is you hold all these records for the Rochester Americans. You chose to live in Rochester. Why settle here, Jody?
Well, it was the team, and the main reason I came here is Teddy Nolan and Mal Davis, who played with me in Adirondack. And when you first come in as a visitor, remember we used to be in a dungeon in the basement, and it wasn't a great place to come downtown. And we were at the one hotel here; it wasn't much to do. And I remember Teddy had me over for lunch when I was with Adirondack, and just talked about how great the city was. And then you start playing here, had some success. But it was more the people. When you start doing a lot of charity events, it's a very giving people. I love the people of Rochester, and I had a chance to sign with Toronto, which was my hometown team. And I was thinking about the other day, it was I would have paid to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But when we went into negotiations, the second year, they offered me 50, and the second year they made it 40, and I knew that was for the minors. And being in the minors, I wanted to be in Rochester, and we made this our home.
No, that's a great story. I'm sorry you never got to be a Leaf. but
things happen. But part of that negotiation with Buffalo was to get a green card because the ability to work here after was the main reason.
Yeah.
If you don't have a green card, you would have played through the contract, and then you would have got deported. We used to get deported all the time.
Now, is this a myth or is it true? Because you brought up the old arena and the dungeon. I've heard that they would crank up the heat as much as possible. Is that true?
Absolutely true. And it was always the worst when the circus was in town and all the animals, the elephants, tigers, and the smell was very gross. And Joe Crow, of course, would turn up the heat, and there was no ventilation down there. And guys always wanted to stay up by the elevator because it was tough. It only would fit 10 players. Of course, both goalies would go in. And just walking down, it's not just one flight of stairs. It's basically 2 flights down. And going down with skates is not always the easiest. And when you're after a shift and you've been on the ice for 2 minutes and you come off walking down the stairs, it's not an easy walk.
Jody Gage is in studio with us, Mr. Amherst, number 9, and we're going to talk about Friday night and what this is all going to be about and what it's going to mean for our community to celebrate the life of Scott Metcalf. You were on hand to greet fans on Friday night, too, and that's also part of the story, right? 30 years. Does it seem like 30 years, or does it seem like yesterday, Jody?
It seems like yesterday. Even playing and the 86, 87 Calder Cup, you just have flashbacks of it. And we have these alumni golf tournaments, and we see some of those players come back, and you pick up the conversation just like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just to see Dixon Warnback, Wayne Primo, the Calder Cup. What was that last season like for you? You were on the team, but by that point, your role was kind of dwindling.
It was a tough year personally because I was coming off a knee injury. Torch took the captaincy away, and of course, I wasn't playing, and I knew I could play, but we had a disjointed locker room. There was, Steve Donner's guys. There was, Tort's guys, and Tort's wanted to make a difference. And but with that tough year came a new opening, and Scott Metcalf is actually a big part of it. Because he was one of the Steve Donner's groups, and Frawley and Nickel and all those guys. And the team was split, and I remember on the bus, I was just very frustrated. And Scotty said, why don't you think about, becoming an assistant GM or go to Steve Donner and, go to the front office and, try to make a new career. And I thought about it, and then I sat down with Steve one day after practice. The knee was swelling up. I was frustrated. I think I hit Dane Jackson. I felt really bad about it in practice because you get frustrated. And I said, this is crazy. And sat down with Steve, and we worked out a deal, and 6 months later, I was a GM. And I was Torch's boss.
You were talking, right.
So
he was here after the Cup. I'm trying to remember the timeline after that. He was actually here another year after they won the Cup.
That's correct.
Wow, okay. So Jody Gage joining us here in the Sports Bar. What is that like, though, when you're one of the guys, and now you're not one of the guys, actually?
Well, it was a tough decision because a lot of the guys I played, I became the GM the following year. And, I talked to a lot of former players like Jim Jackson, Jim Hofford, and of course, Scotty during it. And you have to make a decision at that time when you go to the front office. You're no longer friends. I can't go out and beers with them.
Yeah.
You've got to make now tough decisions, negotiating contracts with them. And it was one of those, and I give Steve Donner a lot of credit. He helped me through a lot of those tough things. It's tough when you're best friends with guys in the locker room, and all of a sudden you're their boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jody. As far as you today, and gosh, it was maybe last year. I saw you at a rink in Canandaigua, and I see one of the little ones on the ice, Gage, right there. I'm like, that is fantastic. What is it like now, watching your grandchildren on the ice?
It's way more exciting than any hockey, going out and cheering for your grandson. It's almost better than your son because you're just so proud of them. Any little thing they do, you're just so proud, and you want them to be happy. And I keep telling them the whole thing about hockey is just having fun and learning a lot of lessons. And all three of them are doing great.
Jody Gage, our guest, Amerks taking on Laval this Friday night. And the reason today having you in studio, it makes all the sense in the world because you knew, and you mentioned Scott Metcalf, And you were great last year, Jody, because it was one of those stories. It was a Friday, and it was, oh, this is just terrible. You gave your time right away because we felt it on our show. Our community felt it. That was somebody that made Rochester his home. And you mentioned like a guy like you feel like you could have a beer with. That was Metcalf. That was Metter in this town. Why do you think people just gravitated? Was it his style of play? Was it his personality? Was it a little bit of everything? What are your thoughts?
It's everything. Metter, I miss him. He was just a great friend, great teammate. He's one of those guys, you knew Metter. Metter was just very, blue-collared, sit down, talk with fans, anything charitable. He was up, raise his hand. He loved this community. He made this community his home. And I think the toughest thing was dying at a young age, and leaving behind a family. And, I coached one of his sons, and it was very difficult to hear the news, and it happened so sudden. And but he was just one of those guys that, let's face it, he's a Hall of Famer. He was the heart and soul. Even that 95-96 team, Metter had the ability to look at a game. Some people would call a goon. He was the farthest from that. He would fight for his teammates. He was very good at it, but he was also a great player. The year I scored 60 goals, he was most of the part. He was my left winger. Metter could play. He was a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. He was a smart player. And even away from the ice, that's all the things I've missed with when you got Metter one-on-one, had a beer, just got into these long conversations, highly intelligent.
Yeah, first-round pick of Edmonton, but yet that never soured him on the sport. Sometimes you think you're going to be on the fast track to success, and for Metter, he really found his footing here in Rochester.
That's his personality. He's all about family. He's all about the team. He's all about, even guys he didn't get along with, in the dressing room, because he would challenge you. And some of the guys he didn't get along with, he still would fight for them. And he fought for the jersey. He wore the red, white, and blue, very, very proud. And he was a big part of our success in the late 80s and 90s. And you look at our teams through the 90s. I was saying it the other day, when you reflect on the 90s, it's just as successful as the 60s. You can have an argument. We went to the finals, 6 times in the 90s, and one of those was really a mini round, which, we ended up losing to Adirondack in the best of 3 because there's 3 divisions, and Adirondack didn't win the Calder Cup. So that team was very good too, and we really don't talk about that team either.
Yeah, it was a different league back then too. I mean, just everything was, or wasn't it? How different was it, Jody? What you said?
Well, I think most teams would say when they came into Rochester, a lot of them had the flu. We were a tough team to play against. We had talent and guys like Metter and Frawley and Nickel. When you look at, Dixon got all the goals and Sharon, and we had some highly skilled players, but that line was a pain in the butt to play against, and they went against the top scorers, and they were in your face.
Anybody wants to write in a question for Jody Gage, our handle is WGR Rochester on X. Jody, as far as Friday night is concerned, Laval opponent, celebration for Scott Metcalf, what can fans kind of expect at the arena Friday night?
Well, first of all, it'll be a great game. Laval and Rochester are becoming quite the rivals. Mm-hmm. And, let's face it, that's our history. The Montreal Canadiens were the first team here, so it makes sense that we've built this rivalry. They've had good teams the last, 4 or 5 years, and it seems like we match up well against them. It's always intense, and that's what you want. You want a good rival, and Laval's becoming one of them. As for Scott, it's something we wanted to do at the beginning of the year, but with the 70th, it was hot, and we wanted to do it right. And we sat down with Jane and whatnot and picked a night that the family could come in, and we wanted to honor Scott in the proper way. And so a lot of the night we're doing, I think, a flash sale of $10 tickets for Metter, and we're trying to raise some money for the family with the Star Toss, and we've got a Scott Metcalf T-shirt that we're selling in the store, and some of the proceeds will go back to the family. So this is all about Metter's night, celebrating his career, his life, and hopefully it's a fun night.
Jody, do you have a few minutes here?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're going to take a break because I want to get your thoughts on what we're seeing up in Buffalo. what has to happen for this team to get over the finish line and be in a place that, well, we haven't been in, the playoffs since 2011. And also, of course, your thoughts here on this Amherst season and what has to happen for Rochester to really make a nice run here coming up in the spring. The great Jody Gage joining us in studio as coming up Friday night, the Amherst will be taking on Laval, a celebration of life of former Rochester American Scott Metcalf. We'll take a quick break here on WGR Rochester.
hanging out in the sports bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Yeah, honored to have the great Jody Gage joining us as coming up Friday. The Amerks taking on Laval as we'll be honoring the life of Scott Metcalf. As far as the team, though, that's a weird schedule. So that'll be, well, tonight they're in Cleveland, Sunday in Syracuse, but outside of the exception, that's Laval 4 times in 6 games. That can kind of build up a little bit of hatred. That feels more like a playoff schedule than regular season, Jody.
But that's good for the fans. You know,
Yeah.
it's let's face it, back in the day, how many times we played Syracuse? 14 times. Something crazy, Adirondack, Binghamton. But they were great games, great rivals, and you know, the more you play them, and let's face it, look how Canada USA hockey is right now.
Oh yeah,
It's become a big rival. So it's great for the sport. It's great for the players. You know, you get a little more jump in your step. You know it's going to be physical, and it's fun.
Yeah, the Amerks tonight playing in Cleveland. Andrew Mossbrooks will have the call 7 o'clock here tonight on WGR Rochester. Jody, as far as this team, a lot of injuries, a lot of movement. We could have we don't know what we're going to have. Let's be honest. Like when it comes to the trade deadline, but you could have players potentially. You know, Buffalo might need to include if they want, and I don't know what will be happening. But your sense here of where this team is at here as we get ready for the stretch run.
What I really like about the coach and the team is no matter who they have in the lineup, they work hard. And this time of the year, that's what it's going to be about. It's as we used to say, you know, the last 20, 15 games, depending where you were in the standings, is playoff hockey. And you're going to see it's going to start turning. You're going to start seeing it, you know, rev up, and you're going to feel the pressure. And that's when exciting coming down the rink. The weather starts changing. I call playoff hockey, and just love coming to the rink. And I always found the February blues were tough. You know, it's cold. It's, you know, it's that you're tired, you know, from the season, and you got all the bumps and bruises, and then that weather hits, that springtime comes, and it's just exciting to get down the rink, and it's exciting for the players.
One thing that has always been true for the Amerks in the history of the franchise has always been a goalie, whether that has been Ryan Miller, Darren Pupa, Darcy Wakaluk, Jacques Cloutier, a lot of different names. I'm going to exclude somebody, but my question's about Devin Levi. Devin Levi, a player who, okay, Buffalo put him out there, and he popped brightly for the Sabres for a little bit. He's taken to this role here in Rochester, but I look back to last year where I had that 13-game day layoff in between rounds. That didn't help anybody. I don't think it helped Devin. I don't think it helped the team, and you just can't use that as an excuse. But where do you think Devin Levi is right now in terms of his development, Jody?
Well, you know, it's always tougher for goalies to develop. They have the most pressure. I'd say they have the most pressure, and then it goes to your goal scorers. But that's part of the development. It's how do you become a duck? How do you let things just roll off you and not affect the next goal? Because you're going to have highs and lows. Let's face it. He's the one interviewed. If you win, it's because of him. You lose, it's usually his fault. It's unfortunate, but that's the way hockey is. And, you know, goaltending is what takes you, you know, far. Like, look at Ole the goalie, Kolzig.
Yeah.
That team had no way of beating Binghamton and going to the Calder Cup finals, but Ole stood on his head and, you know, that great season because he got traded from, I think it was Baltimore, because he was washing his property. So he was the third goalie. They didn't even want him. All of a sudden he comes to Rochester and all of a sudden does a great run, and then he's in the National Hockey League, has a great NHL career. So, you know, this is what makes your career. And, you know, it's unfortunate we put the pressure on the goaltender, but it's not always the goaltender. You got to play, you know, you got to have great defense in front of them. And I really like the Amerks defense. We're deep, and they can handle the puck. They're very good defensively, and they've bought into the coach's defensive thing. So it's a lot of pressure, but, you know, he's handling it well. He's having some ups and downs, and I think he's battling through it.
One thing you hear in sports, it's not just hockey, is that when you're on a roll, hey, is this a good time in football for the bye week? No, we're playing well. We could use the rest, whatever. Boy, the way the Sabres were playing, and then all of a sudden, hey, here's the Olympic break, and now everybody's going to come back. How difficult is this going to be for Lindy and the team just to pick up right where they left off here, Jody?
Well, what I would be saying if we were in the locker room, it just doesn't happen. Let's face it, this game is 90% mental. It's confidence, and that's the difference why they were successful. They went on a run, and it was like they believed they couldn't lose.
Yeah.
And you got to get back to that mindset. But if you think you're just going to come back here, throw your skates on and whatnot, teams are coming. They're not going to be, people are going to be saying, Buffalo's coming in, we're playing Buffalo, be prepared. So all the teams are going to be prepared, and they've got to match that intensity, but also have that swagger. We always called it a swagger. Mm-hmm. We were a little cocky. Mm-hmm. You don't go out and show it or tell other people, but you felt it in the locker room. We always felt that we could beat anybody.
Yeah, that's always a special feeling. Does this team need to do anything at the trade deadline, Jody? Being a former GM at the AHL level, some people might say, hey, get another defenseman. Maybe it's another a third-line center. The goaltending situation's unique, certainly, with three guys you could roll out there now that UPL hopefully is healthy. But, if you're Jarmo Kekalainen, how do you evaluate this roster as we approach the deadline?
Well, if he were to ask me advice, what I would say is you want depth. So I've lost as a GM the Calder Cup finals against Providence and Hartford. One year we didn't have enough defense, and the next year we didn't have enough forwards. So it's the toughest championship to win is hockey because of the 7-game series. It's a war, and you're going to have injuries. So your depth comes to play. So you've got to make sure you have depth both, in goal, board, defense.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance we're going to pay the price.
Jody, we've been talking here for a while. Haven't even asked you about the game. I saw this from NBC. That was the most watched sports. Not too many sports programs come on before 9 a.m., but it set the record when you consider, all time. That is in terms of that time slot. Also, it's the second most watched hockey game ever, only behind the Crosby goal against Miller. But, Jody, that's like late afternoon. This was early in the morning. So your thoughts on what we saw? I just thought the game was unbelievable. It really was. I didn't want to look at my phone. You couldn't take your eyes off the screen for 1 second.
Well, first of all, we just talked about goaltending, right? The better goaltender won the game. I thought Canada outplayed them. Of course, growing up in Canada, playing for the Canadian national junior team, the first one ever, being a part of that, of course, my alliance is to Canada. Mm-hmm. But it was great for hockey. It was great for USA hockey. It was great for their program. They've come a long way. And it's going to be a good battle, but the USA is going to start now moving ahead of them. They're deeper. They got more participants. Their hockey program is doing a great job. And, one thing I'm proud of my son is I think the girls program might be the biggest in the country, the Junior Amherst. So the game is growing. It's great for the game. And it's always good when you can get people that really aren't hockey fans to tune in, and that's what the Olympics do. And so hopefully we get some fans out to our games.
Yeah.
So it's great for the game of hockey.
Yeah, look, Tage Thompson wasn't here that long ago, so who knows? Maybe there is an Olympian on this roster, whether that's for the U.S. or for another country. Jody Gage joining us. Amherst are home against Laval on Friday night. We had Don Stevens in studio with us last Thursday, Jody, and it was to promote the appearance you were at last week, the 96 celebration. The Calder Cup was in studio. That was a lot of fun. But what also made this fun was, because Tim, our producer, was in here. We had another guy in Dan DeLorean. We had Don. We had Warren from the Amherst. And we had the women's goal game on. And you get the late goal, and you can hear I'm like, I can't do the play-by-play here. You hear the cheering in the back. And then we go to break just as they're going to break, to get ready for overtime. And I say to Don off the air, I'm like, ugh, 3-on-3. Are you kidding me? This is what's going to decide this? And Don's like, and I'm not going to do a Don Stevens impression because I would butcher it. But Don said basically, the rules going in. If you don't like it, win in 60 minutes. So that's where I keep coming back to. John Cooper has a point that I think the NHL format is superior in the sense that you get to 5-on-5 in the Stanley Cup. I don't want to see, maybe they make that adjustment for next time around the Olympics because it's the gold medal game. I don't care if it goes 4 overtimes. Let's let these guys here battle it out here. Really don't need the 3-on-3. So your thoughts on that format, Jody?
Well, they're two different formats. I agree with Cooper. This is you knew going in. And let's face it, if you were a betting guy, I would take Team Canada 3-3.
They had the guys you wanted on the ice.
They got the guys you want on the ice, but it still comes down to goaltending, and it's, and you can't change the Stanley Cup. That's what makes that special. It's a war. It's intensity. When you go to 4 games or you have any overtime, every little play counts. And you've seen it a little bit in the Olympics. It's a little bit, jumps over a stick or, McKinnon got brushed off the puck. It was a battle. Yeah. He lost that battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's exciting to watch overtime. I don't care if it's 3-on-3, 5-on-5. You can be traditionalists, but let's face it. I think the traditionals get upset. They want 5-on-5. I think the everyday fan that we want to grow wants 3-on-3.
Good point. Well, I mean, maybe there's the happy medium there. And again, I would just say to anybody, and I think most fans of Canada acknowledge, get it done in 60 minutes and don't let it go to chance there. And somebody else made this point, and forgive me, World Cup will go to penalty kicks. Like that, now that seems crazier to me, than actually. Thankfully, there's no shootout. There was a shootout one year in the Olympics.
Well, I don't like the shootout. It's basically putting everything in the goaltender. Let's face it, the goaltending is what, whether it's 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3, it's a flip of the coin who's going to win. It's usually a lucky bounce. We always talk about it, in overtime in the playoffs. Guys, it's going to be an ugly one. Get pucks to the net. It's going to be, the pressure. It's going to be a bounce off a shin pad, bounce, doesn't matter if it's lucky as long as it goes in.
The celebration for Scott Metcalf coming up Friday night, and it's part of this, also bigger story here too. 70 years of Rochester Americans hockey, and I'm just curious, what the team is going to do. Well, we've done a lot already for Don Stevens, and I know with Don's dry humor, he'd be like, we've done enough already. Jody, you have to have a Don Stevens story.
Oh, Don, Don's just, he bleeds red, white, and blue. He's the voice. He's a funny man. He's got quite the sense of humor. He's got the one-liners, and I'm trying to think of one story that pops up, but there's so many. The bus rides and the bus catching on fire in Adirondack, us sitting out in the cold, and Don forgetting his jacket and whatnot. But he's just a super great human being. Has done a lot for this city, a lot of charitable work, and it's bittersweet. It's we're honoring him, but I'm sorry to see him go. I'd love to see him, in that radio booth forever.
Yeah. I mean, I joke with him can we bring you on? He's like, I might not return your call. It's just his dry. There's dry humor. There's Don Stevens' sense of
yes.
humor.
And you know what? The one thing you love about listening to him, when the Amherst score and when the visitor score. And I always tell him, I hate when he says, they score. It's just he's iconic. He's Amherst hockey.
That's he called every one of your goals here in Rochester.
Except for 1 year. I always rub it into Don. I'm 1 year earlier than him.
Oh, wow.
So he's 40, I'm 41, and I rub it into him all the time.
Okay, we'll make sure that we knock him down a peg. Mr. Amherst of Jody Gage. And Jody, you will. I assume you will have kind of a role Friday night. You'll be there Friday night for the celebration of Matter?
Absolutely. This is a special night. And I got to give a shout out to our staff. They've done a great job, and with all these different jersey designs that they've come up with, it's Nick, who does all the artwork, has done a phenomenal job, and our whole staff has really worked hard on all these nights, and they're doing another one here. They just did one in the 90s, and You got to give them credit where credit's due, and our staff is doing a great job.
Yeah, I'm partial to maybe that's the last cup of the Stars and Bars to me. Wear that full time, Jody. But then Don would say no because I can't read the numbers there. So
Well, we did it just for Don. If you see the whiteness, we put it in there just for Don to see the games. And of course, I'm a traditional, so I like the jerseys that we won in. So, but it's important that Don see the numbers and all the jerseys. I never got a chance to wear a red jersey.
wow.
So I'd like to see the Reds come back.
You played for. I can't think of you as an Adirondack Red Wing though.
Well, my first year, the Amerks were red.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I did not know that. So.
Well, I think the reason they went blue is because of Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
Now you just have to have one helmet.
Jody Gage, great seeing you. Thank you so much, and let's do this again sometime.
Thank you. It was always a pleasure.
Jody Gage, Mr. Amick, number 9, all-time leader in franchise history for games, goals, assists, you name it. As a Friday night, the Amerks will be taking on Laval. We'll take a quick break, and we will take your calls at 866-4326, 866-4326 here on WGR Rochester.
You're in the Sports Bar with
Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
WROCAM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports update.
Stretch run begins for the Amerks and for the Sabres. Rochester tonight playing in Cleveland. Head coach Mike Leone on the opponent.
Cleveland's a really, really good team. I mean, they were good at the start of the season when the two guys they got back in their lineup are Gauntz, who's played 400 games in the NHL, and Aston Reese, who's played close to 400 games in the NHL, and both of them are exceptional AHL players.
Amerks tonight, call from Andrew Mossbrooks. That'll begin at 7 o'clock here on WGR Rochester. Sabres hockey can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. Buffalo playing at New Jersey. It is expected that Tage Thompson will be in the lineup. Final weekend of the regular season for the RIT men's hockey team. The Tigers Friday night play at the College of the Holy Cross. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
We're going to do everything to bring you local content here in the Sports Bar. Welcome to Hour 2, as that was fantastic. Just hearing stories from Jody Gage, and honestly, there could be a Jody Gage podcast series because he's got so many stories. But the celebration of life of Scott Metcalf, the former heart and soul of that 96 Calder Cup team that unfortunately was taken from us way too soon at the age of 58 last March, but great on the team, great on the family that we're going to have a night for the fans to celebrate. Again, Friday night, Laval, the opponent, and if you can't make it out, we'll have the call for you, of course, right here on the all-new WGR Rochester. That's our handle online, at WGR Rochester, as I appreciate all our regulars, finding the new time slot. Chris in South Central Kentucky, about the new song. It's upbeat, but, and he sends the Price is Right losing horn. Steve writing in, Joe's opening song is, So we had this jingle from Sean from Long Island. I don't know if Sean is going to submit. I personally I've never even talked to Sean. It was a contact of Dangers. I reached out to him and said, hey, take this. But anybody that wants to, give us a new theme song here for you. Show your talents, whether that's being a real musician or AI. Because my suspicion is that this is AI. This new theme song submission, just too many mistakes here that this is not going to get allowed.
The Bills always find a new way to lose the game, and Joe from Schenectady calls up to complain. He's got the Amerks on the line, talking about Chuck Muncie back in his prime. But Mike Danger's gone, and that's okay, 'cause life goes on here at the Sports Bar today. Life goes on, we're doing fine, with Gene Battaglia on the air tonight.
So Joe from Schenectady working himself into his submission, which, okay, we'll let that pass. Joe, thank you. That's some fine work. I think it's AI because anybody listening to this show would know the local team is called the Amerks, right? So Rochester Amerks hockey. If somebody said, hey, you want to go to the Americans game tonight? You'd be like, what? Who? Oh, the hockey team, yeah. That would tell you no one calls them the Americans, and no one calls them, the Amerks or whatever that song says. So, no, I cannot allow that. Appreciate the submission. And anybody that wants to do better, again, you know how to reach me. Online, my handle, my name, at Gene Battaglia. You can certainly reach out on social on any different platform you would want to. Or you can just, if you want to email, I'll even give you my email address, gene.battaglia@odyssey.com. So thank you, Joe. Appreciate the submission, but I think we can do better. And that means Joe is welcome to resubmit. I'm going to leave that out there too.
Yeah, that was a fine baseline. There's some work to do with it. I was surprised that they were able to say Schenectady properly. So
Yeah.
AI being able to nail that, but not Amherst.
Amherst.
Is peculiar.
Yeah, and also at the end, Gene Battaglia's on the air tonight. It's
It
like,
just sounds better. Not accurate, but it sounds better.
it does, I guess. I mean, when the RT Tigers are playing, yes, I guess that is tonight, but this is this show. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Appreciate the feedback from everybody. And again, I feel like I have to reset this until we really gonna get through week number 1. If you weren't with us last Friday, Mike Danger took a management position here. He is managing all the fine stations here at the High Falls Studios, which would be 92.5 WBEE, 96.5 WCMF, 98 PXY, 98.9 The Buzz, and now the newly renamed WGR Rochester. And then kind of timing up with the, hey, what happened to Maggie and Perloff? What happened? Well, that network, unfortunately, kind of sold off, and we thought we could do better. So, hence, giving you more Buffalo-centric Bill Sabres sports talk seems to be a winning formula, right? So, but I am going to make these 2 hours very Rochester-centric for you in the afternoon. But, Gene, I can't listen in the afternoon. I like drive time. Okay. Chances are your car has a device where you can put the Bluetooth with it, and everything on the Odyssey app, that's what Dan DeLorean's going to be doing. If you miss Jody Gage, you can listen to it on your way home. But people are going to be doing that. And if you haven't started listening that way yet to audio, chances are you're doing it on TV, right? Your favorite TV show? Are you sitting down right at 9 o'clock to watch it? Me? No, I'm not waiting until later in the spring. I'm watching Paradise right now on Hulu. That's one of the ones on our list. You got to have like 4 or 5, right? And that's outstanding. That's the one I would recommend. It's only in season 2. 866-4326. We will talk some winning plays at the bottom of this hour. PJ Glasser, our betting expert, college basketball expert as well. He's out of the Beltway area from Maryland. We always make fun of him, but he made his way over. I didn't realize that game, Duke, Michigan, was actually in D.C. Saturday night. So fantastic game, and we'll get PJ's thoughts on that. It's the second time he's actually seen Duke. He saw Duke in Syracuse. This one was just a little bit closer, I would say. Mentioned the Sabres tonight, and I haven't seen anything officially declaring Tage Thompson is going to be in the lineup. I saw Jack Hughes will be in the lineup for the Devils, although he was not there at the morning skate. So, yeah, they were doing other things last night in D.C., and being now the host of this show, I'm making the executive decision just to say, unless it really warrants the conversation, we're sticking to sports here. Fair? Because there's plenty of places for that content, but you want kind of an escape, so we're not gonna inject the real world into this. We don't have to, so we're gonna keep it to hockey and sports. Fair, okay. 8 games in the NHL tonight. In addition to the Sabres, we've got the Leafs in Tampa Bay, 7:30 on TNT, and this is actually kind of sad. John Cooper will not be behind the bench tonight or tomorrow night. That goes to the Lightning, lost his father. Sidney Crosby goes on injured reserve. Meanwhile, he's out at least 4 weeks. The Penguins begin tomorrow night at home against the Devils. So, all right, the Devils, this is going to be the stretch run. You're going to have a lot of teams playing back-to-back nights. It is going to be a grind. And for the Buffalo Sabres, I'm not ready to pencil them in just yet to the postseason because of that grind. I thought it was interesting, too, what Jody said was talking about, like, the swagger. That was what was missing, like the expectation that we are the better team. We know it here in this locker room. We're going to go out and show you. And you could see that. There was one Tuesday night in January. Like, this feels different. The Sabres dropped 7 on Toronto. There's been other games this year you could point to. Well, it's not going to be just, hey, we're back. Everybody rested. Okay, let's go out there. It might be a grind. You might get to the end of 2 tonight, and the Sabres might be trailing. And why is that? Well, because everybody is gunning for the same thing. So can the Sabres get that confidence, get that swagger back? Be looking at that tonight. I think it actually helps, too, kind of a weird way, that they're actually starting out on the road for 3 games. That Buffalo for 3 games will be Tuesday night will be the first home game against Vegas. But, hey, if something isn't going quite right, you're not hearing from the home crowd, because let's be honest, the home crowd sometimes can get on teams, get on players. So maybe it's a good thing that if one of these games doesn't go Buffalo's way, you don't need the Sabre players hearing about it. So, again, Sabres hockey tonight on CMF. We've got the Amerks beginning at 7 o'clock. Ron Duguay has stage 4 cancer. This sucks. So if you're not familiar with Ron Duguay, he had, like, the hair. So this is, like, right at the time when the NHL was putting in the helmet mandates, but then there were a few guys grandfathered in. The last guy was Craig McTavish of the Oilers, was the last guy to go helmetless. Duguay was also somebody that did not wear a helmet. He had, like, the big, blonde, bushy hair and played many years, kind of a gritty guy, with the Rangers, and he became like this kind of Broadway star. The Rangers weren't really all that good in those years, but they were somewhat entertaining, and so, like, with Duguay now, like, he went on to play, be a broadcaster with MSG. His daughter set up a GoFundMe, to which Ron admits that it's hard asking for some sort of help. So, again, time is not an infinite supply, and if you're a Ranger fan, that news kind of is a bummer today. In order to get a deal done in an intense negotiation, what do we need? The one thing you absolutely has to have, it has to appear, that would be a deadline. Without a deadline, well, you know what? Good luck trying to get either side to move. The WNBA draft and the season approaching, we now have a deadline. That would be March 10th. Only a couple weeks away. Now, whether that deadline is real, that remains to be seen. May 8th, opening night for the league. And say whatever you want, about the WNBA. I think it's good for the sports landscape. And I think that I'm not sure. Generally speaking, we always side on the side of the players. But I'm not sure exactly what the ownership is looking for here. You see the numbers, you see the growth, and if you're in the WNBA owner, most of them are NBA owners, you cannot be, you cannot be crying poverty. 866-4326 is our number. We have our buddy, PJ Glasser, coming up at the bottom of the hour. You're always welcome to join us. Sean calling in from Rochester, I assume. Sean, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Gene, I'm excited for the new time change. I don't know if anyone else is, but it fits into my work schedule. So
very good, nice.
I'll keep you on. But,
nice.
So I just got back into town from sunny South Florida from vacation, so I was out of touch with the sports world for a little bit. Down with the wife and kids for the old February recess, winter break, whatever they call it nowadays. And so I get back and I'm watching. I see that Mike Evans is going to test his the waters with free agency, and he would look pretty good in a Bills uniform, because that guy, I know he's been a little dinged up the last couple of years, but man, that guy is a clutch wide receiver, and I don't know why the Bills wouldn't go all in for a guy like Mike Evans.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sean, like, I'm trying to figure out. And we don't know the answer. Is it real or not? Because obviously this is only getting to this point because the Buccaneers are like, okay, go test your value. And now it's I don't know your family situation, but there's a lot of us, right, that, hey, I've got this offer and the money might be a little bit more, but do I want to uproot everything? And so you're trying to weigh things out if you're Mike Evans. So that's why even still, for somebody like Mike Evans, who I'm sure would love to get another ring, he's got one, I don't know how real the possibility is that he's actually going to leave Tampa Bay unless they don't want him. I think they'd be nuts not to want Mike Evans. I go back to Larry Fitzgerald. I thought Larry Fitzgerald was somebody, Sean, that at the end of his career, okay, go get a ring. Go accept the trade to the Patriots that apparently was on the table and other things. No, he wanted to remain a Cardinal, and that was his family and everything, and that's fine. But my gosh, if Mike Evans were a Buffalo Bill and then you actually go out and you spend your first-round pick on a Boston or a Concepcion or somebody like that, we're not talking about this substandard wide receiver room for the Buffalo Bills anymore, Sean.
No, exactly. And then from a guy that travels a lot to Tampa and Florida for work, it's not hard to – you could have a place up here and still keep all your summer, your local house down in Florida. It's not a big – us New Yorkers go to Florida all the time. It's not a big deal. Keep your stuff down there. Come up here. Would you rather have Josh Allen throwing you the ball or, the kid from Oklahoma down there? I forgot his name right off the top of my head.
Baker Mayfield, yeah,
Baker Mayfield. And another thing, too, Gene, is the time is listen, the kid's good. Josh is going to be 30 years old, okay? The chips got to go all in the table. Just like the Cubs did a few years ago when it's time to win a ring. I don't care about the future. I don't care about 10 years from now if we're back to just smashing tables and drinking shots out of a bowling ball and we're the lovable losers like we used to be. The time is now. Josh Allen's 30 years old. You got a good 3-4 year window, and then things are going to start. The injuries are going to pop up with him, the quarterbacks start declining after a certain age. So push the chips all in and you gotta go. It's go time now for Brendan Beane.
Oh, Sean, great call. And appreciate you, taking hold to the new slot there. And you don't have to tell me. My brother does the same thing. Like he's got, he goes down to Florida at the drop of a hat. I joke with him, but like it's not that hard, right? And quite frankly, if you've got the means and you work really hard, you can fly down there every so often. I just think it's different though. When you're a professional, you got to be all in. And if you're up here, it's not so easy that game is over. Let me fly back on Sunday night and I'll be back here for Wednesday practice. It doesn't. That's a tough lifestyle to live. You got to be kind of based in the city that you're performing in when you're an NFL player. So that I don't think anybody trying to think of recent examples. There was the one guy. Who was it? Somebody help me out. There was the one guy who lived in Toronto. Do you remember this, Tim?
I do not.
Okay, so somebody will write that in. It was a veteran. This is a drought era trivia question. Who was the longtime NFL veteran who signed with the Bills, but actually decided, you know what, I'd rather live in Toronto, and then somebody would limo him in. He would literally, which I don't think I would want to deal with a QEW every day. Like, that's nuts. Like Phillip Rivers, when they went up to play in Los Angeles, well, he didn't want to move. So that was the negotiation, and like literally, and that's not that far, believe it or not, LA to San Diego. That's only a couple hours, but I would not want to deal with Toronto traffic every day. You got it, Tim?
Chidi Ahanatu.
That's it.
I forgot him ever playing with the Bills.
Chidi Ahanatu, but that was right at the end.
Yeah.
And when you're right at the end, it's like, do I want to do this? Here's my price. Oh my gosh, they said yes. Chidi Ahanatu. You're like, I'm surprised, quite frankly, that more Bills players don't say, hey, I'd rather, negotiate something else, but maybe that'll change. Maybe that was a McDermott thing. Sean, thanks for the call. Appreciate the feedback, and you're always welcome to call at 866-4326. Mike Evans would be fun. I just don't see him leaving. I just think that this seems like Tampa's saying, yeah, this is what we're going to offer you, and the hometown discount might come into play because maybe Mike Evans really doesn't want to leave. For a Bills fan, I hope I'm wrong there. The Atlanta Braves, talk a little baseball here. Atlanta Braves are following the template first set by the Yankees. Produce and distribute your own games on TV. What a novel concept, right? Braves Vision will be called, that's the name of the new network. Yankees have Yes, the Red Sox have Nesson, the Cubs have Marquee, on, and now the Braves will have Braves Vision. And, this is the problem with baseball, right? Some teams are go-getters when it comes to money, and if we can do this ourselves, the Yankees figure this out, oh, gosh, that is a tremendous revenue scene. Then you have, like, the dumbass Angels. The Angels can't even get one preseason game on television, and they have the name Los Angeles in their name. They're not really Los Angeles. It's false advertising. They're Orange County. They're Anaheim, once called California, but still, there are a lot of people there. And you can't even get one game on preseason TV? Well, about the Braves, I think this is going to be a big hit. That's because the Braves could own the South. They can go to markets like Nashville and Charlotte and everything, points in between, states in between. And when I also think about Major League Baseball expansion, my heart kind of bleeds for Montreal. I love that city. I believe that what happened to the Expos, a travesty at the time, and I believe there's somebody that's trying to make it happen. I don't think it's going to happen just because Major League Baseball wants to follow the money. And where the money might be right now, it's in a market like Nashville, and there's some deep pocket people in Salt Lake City. And so for these markets like Charlotte and Portland and Montreal, I do think that they'll be on the outside looking in. That ultimately the Major League Baseball will look at Nashville and be like, how could we not be in Nashville? And the money out in Salt Lake City will just kind of buy another team. And that'll be the end of that. But I hope I'm wrong on that. But again, Rob Manfred doesn't seem to be in any hurry about expansion. He's got other issues like, all right, is the stadium really going to get built in Tampa Bay? That seems to be the thing that's holding everything up. Do we really, really do we need Mayweather-Pacquiao Part 2? We did not get to this. Mayweather's going to be 49. He went on undefeated. Last fight taking place in 2015. He won convincingly over Pacquiao. Truth is, Business Insider pointed this out. Mayweather is in financial trouble. Liens, foreclosures. He owns a building in Vegas that houses an adult gentleman's club. Look, that's they're not paying their taxes, apparently, that gentleman's club. September 19th for Mayweather-Pacquiao Part 2 on Netflix. This is where we are with Netflix. They're, and streamers in general, they just want more content. I don't think any of us were asking for 40-plus-year-old Ronda Rousey to make a comeback either, but there she will be. And somebody climbing a skyscraper, you might be interested. No thanks for me. I kind of like to keep my feet on the ground, so to speak. One other note from the NFL today, and that is we've got a couple teams headed to London. So we've got the Jaguars not once, but 2 games in London. Okay. And you remember, like for the Jaguars, they are going to be kind of this transient team. They're going to be playing games in Orlando in 2027. So that's not this year, that's next year. But if you're in Jacksonville, boy, how do you build a fan base there if you're losing 2 games this year and then you're going to be in a different market? What is Orlando to Jacksonville? 3 hours? Like that's not an easy putt. So you got that, and you got Washington that's going to go over to Tottenham Hotspur too. So kind of reduces the odds that the Bills are going to get tapped on the shoulder because they don't play Jacksonville. They don't play Washington. All right. So also announced that today that Detroit will play in Germany. Maybe that was yesterday. You have the Saints. We already knew the Saints in Madrid, Niners in Mexico City, Cowboys in Rio, and the Rams taking on the Niners in Melbourne. So the teams that are going outside of our borders, again, Jacksonville, Washington, New Orleans, San Francisco, Dallas, and the Rams. The only team the Bills are scheduled to play on the road of all those teams are the Rams, but we already know it's going to be San Francisco as the opponent. So, again, I am totally fine if the Bills don't play overseas. They just haven't figured it out yet. Seems like every time it's a substandard game, and maybe that would change. They've learned a thing or two along the way, but some would say, no, it's better to go over to London and you're not really facing a crowd that's hostile and you can hear the snap count easier. Maybe. But I just think that the travel, it's such an advantage not to do that. If you're a Niner fan, you can't be happy that you got to go to Australia and then to Mexico City. It's going to be quite the test there for that team. We got PJ Glasser, our betting expert, college football prognosticator extraordinaire. He's got a winning play tonight in college basketball. We will get to that, and we got last call on the way too. 866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
So much action, we couldn't fit it all in. WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Stretch run begins here for the Amherst and for the Sabres. Tonight, the Amherst in Cleveland. This is a monster team. The Amherst are chasing in the standings. Head coach Mike Leone on this opponent.
They're really deep. They're really good defensively. They're just a really good team. I think they're one of the best teams in our division. I would put them up against Laval. They've gone to a lot of overtime games. We actually have more regulation wins than them. I think they've been to at least 19 overtime games, and they've won a lot of those games. They're good in overtime. They're good in the shootout.
Tuesdays in the sports bar, we talk to head coach Mike Leone. Sabres hockey tonight can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. Sabres at New Jersey. Tage Thompson expected to be back for the blue and gold. Final game of the regular season coming up for the Tigers Saturday night. Also Friday night, RIT playing at Holy Cross. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the sports bar with Gene Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
My promise to you is that we will talk Rochester sports as we always do. Leading with the Bills, leading with the Amherst. It's combine stuff right now. We'll get more into the combine as we learn more as everything kind of goes along. But you know what? We're going to carve out some time, as always, for our good friend as we look ahead to the weekend. We look ahead to some plays tonight. We look ahead to baseball season. We look ahead to March Madness. College basketball expert, betting expert, PJ Glasser joining us here in the sports bar. And PJ, again, I am envious. You were at Duke Syracuse. Well, I'm not envious because, for most of us not wanting to watch Syracuse get pummeled the way they did. You were at Duke, Michigan. Tell us what that experience was like. PJ, good afternoon.
Gene, always good to be with you. That game was a lot of fun, especially with no rooting interest, kind of just to sit back as an observer and watch two of the best teams in the country. It was a Final Four feel played in an Elite Eight setting, right? Because we know, obviously, nowadays when they go to the Final Four, they play in the NFL stadiums where you get why they do it because of the money and all those sorts of things, and they can put more butts in seats, but getting like that quality of a basketball game in a basketball arena was pretty awesome. You also, it was probably like 60-40 Duke, so Michigan definitely traveled. They showed up and were supportive of their Wolverines, but it was a lot of fun. And, Gene, it just kind of throws a wrench, man, as we head into March, because I felt pretty strong about Michigan going into that game. Like they were the clear-cut best team. You never want to overreact too much to one game, but after seeing something like that, you're like, man, is Duke the best team? Is Arizona still the best team? So it's going to be a fun tournament. There's no doubt.
Well, do we have clear number one seeds right now, PJ? Like, would you feel comfortable saying these are the teams we should expect here if we want to go chalk?
I think three of them, Gene, are pretty clear-cut as you can be. Like, Duke, Michigan, and Arizona at this point have pretty much separated themselves. I would expect all three of those teams to be a one seed. After that, it gets interesting, especially if UConn loses tonight to St. John's, because the Big East is not a very good league this year, and the Johnnies already beat them once. So if they were to sweep UConn and beat them in stores tonight, that would definitely maybe drop them down to the 2 line, and then you got Iowa State in the mix. You got Purdue in the mix. Florida has just been steamrolling people recently. So I think if UConn wins tonight, it does feel like Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and the Huskies are probably our 4-1 seeds. But you definitely got those first three teams. We'll see what happens tonight. If UConn loses, then we have a battle for that fourth and final 1 seed.
Boy, you had a few years ago where you had all these Cinderella stories. And now, last year, all 4-1 seeds, like it was the complete opposite. Any kind of feel right now in terms of the parity or lack of parity right now, PJ, is, it's never too soon to start thinking about bracketology. And, is there really much a gap, or how big is the gap, I should say, between these 1 seeds and teams that might be an 8, 9, or 10, say?
So I think the 1 seeds are really good this year, Gene, but I don't think they're as good as the 1 seeds we have last year, and I also don't think the gap is as large between the 1 seeds last year to the rest of the field and the 1 seeds we have this year to the rest of the field. The one thing I will say, though, about the Cinderellas, right, because that's what we love about March. That's what we love about the tournament. We want to see these upsets and everything. I truly don't know. I mean, because we've entered this new era of college basketball with NIL and constant roster turnover and all these sorts of things, it's the big question. Like, because all these mid-major programs, if they have a great season, well, now these big schools are going to come poach all those players and pay them to come play for them, right? So that was the big advantage that these mid-major teams had in the past was they obviously would build up. You know, I mean, their starting lineup would consist of 4 or 5 seniors in their lineup, guys who played together 3-4 years, and that experience and playing all those reps together and that chemistry would help them beat those Calipari Kentucky teams or those Krzyzewski Duke teams that were filled with one-and-dones, whatever it may be. I'm very fascinated to see over the next couple of years, like, how that plays out. Are we still going to get all those upsets? But even though the 1 seeds are definitely really strong, I do expect the champion to probably be one of the 1 seeds this year. I think, Gene, we could see more parity this season than we did last year.
PJ Glasser will be paying attention. More parity means we got to be paying attention here, PJ. As far as people that want a little action tonight, let's just say you've got to play in the SEC. Tell us about Texas A&M and Arkansas and anything else that we should pay attention here to tonight.
Yeah, so people like this one, Gene, right? We got a total of 170.5 tonight between A&M and Arkansas, so we need both teams to get to about 85. I still think that's way too low. So Arkansas and A&M play at 2 of the fastest paces in the SEC, right? They're up there with Bama. Georgia plays at a fast pace. Florida plays at a fast pace. I compare Arkansas and A&M to Alabama, though, because all 3 teams are the same in the sense that they play at a fast pace, they have a very good offense, and they struggle from time to time on defense. I look at when Bama played Arkansas, Gene, and Bama played A&M, those totals were in the 180s. And we're getting Arkansas and A&M tonight, and A&M, if you haven't watched them play yet, they're one of the most exciting teams to watch in the country because they full court press the entire game. Up and down, pick up their man 94 feet, they jack threes, so I just don't get why the total is so low. If when both of those teams played Alabama, the total was in the 180s, why is this game in the 170s when you're getting the same profile of those teams and you're going to get a just terrific pace in that one? So I do like the over in that game quite a bit. I mean, the game of the night, St. John's and UConn, I'm probably not going to bet it, Gene. If I had to, I'd probably bet St. John's in the first half. Something I've known with Rick Pitino's team the last couple of years is, for whatever reason, when they go on the road in Big East play, they're a great bet in the first half. When they're at home in Big East play at MSG, they're a good fade in the first half. So big game like this, people expecting UConn to get their revenge, crowd's going to be into it. These are the kind of spots where I like backing Pitino and his teams when I think they get off to a quick start. I like UConn to win the game. I don't think I'd lay the 6.5, but St. John's plus 3.5, Gene. If anybody wants a bet in the big game of the night, that's the way I would look.
Oh, we got all this action. You know, like it felt like, okay, the Olympics are great, and then we had this like, yes, there are a few NBA games, but now we're back here, PJ. PJ Glasser, our betting expert here in the Sports Bar. We do have some breaking news here from the NBA.
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
According to Shams, it's a fractured right thumb for James Harden. This happened in the win over the Knicks last night. Harden is undergoing further evaluations and treatment. Okay, that doesn't mean he's out necessarily, but that would be kind of painful. Like, your thoughts on that, you know, because that was kind of a ballsy move to bring Harden over to Cleveland. But now if that blows up here, just the East overall just doesn't seem that interesting outside of Detroit here, PJ.
It doesn't. Yeah, Gene, I don't know what to make of the East. You know, it still feels like Detroit is a year away, and they're certainly getting priced like that. Even with the Harden injury right now, I'm looking at BetMGM odds, Gene. Cleveland is still the favorite to win the East at 3-1. Celtics right behind them, plus 325. Then Detroit plus 350, and the Knicks at plus 400. So you have 4 teams within $100 of each other, which is kind of crazy. I mean, look, it could go any way in the East. I still think I probably like the Knicks the best. They've gotten some experience with this core group the last few years. I just trust them in the playoffs. They got such a good home court in Madison Square Garden. I'd still probably take the Knicks, especially at the price that you're getting. But yeah, like you said, Cleveland's going all in. I mean, they've been a great regular season team the last few years, but I don't know, Gene, when these teams make these big blockbuster trades like this at the deadline and they try to do these things on the fly, it tends to not really work out, especially when you have such a ball-dominant player like Harden. So I really don't have any interest in Cleveland. It'd probably be the Knicks for me if I had to bet a future in the East.
Looking at the schedule tonight, this is the matchup, if we went chalk, we could have as the final, is you have Oklahoma City at Detroit. Right now, both teams in first place of their respective conferences. Is there any play tonight in the NBA you like here? We also have Boston tonight playing out at Denver, PJ.
Yeah, I mean, Gene, Detroit's a 10.5-point favorite tonight against OKC. They just continue to be derailed by injuries. SGA's still out. Chet's still out. I mean, a number of their key players are out for this game. Sportsbooks have had a really difficult time pricing OKC because of all these injuries. But, man, I mean, getting Oklahoma City at 10.5, that just feels like you're walking into a big old trap there trying to take those points.
Yeah.
So I'll stay away from that game. I can't believe it's actually that high, even with all the injuries that they have. I do like Denver tonight, minus the 4.5 against the Celtics. If you were to play that game, both teams are playing pretty well right now. I think this is going to be like a high-intensity type game. I do like the under 228.5 as well. Two good defensive teams. So I think that's going to be a fun game tonight. I mean, Gene, half the battle in the NBA this time of the year is just figuring out like the motivation and what teams actually want to be there. And I mean, just figuring out the starting lineups and who's going to be available is half the battle. But I think in a game like that, Denver and Boston, you're going to get two teams that fully motivated, focused, want to play. And anytime you get those sorts of things, I lean towards the under. And I think Denver takes care of business tonight at home as well.
Yeah, for what was kind of supposed to be a throwaway year. Look, the Celtics are in second place of that conference. So I'm like, wow. Great for them if you're a Celtic fan. PJ, just a few more here. The NHL starting back up tonight. And look, we've talked about this before. Hockey, not an easy sport to wager on. But, PJ, I was so happy to see you were up Sunday morning. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you for your thoughts on the sport of hockey here and how maybe the NHL might capitalize on the buzz that's going around here.
Gene, I want your take on this as well. But I truly think that the greatest sporting event that we have on planet Earth is Canada-U.S. hockey when it means something. Like, I'm just watching that game, and I love March Madness, right? NFL playoffs, like Masters Sunday, all the biggest sporting events, people out there who love the World Cup, whatever it may be. I mean, Gene, we know how good of a product the NHL playoffs is every year, but you just watch U.S. and Canada play. Yeah, Canada was probably the better team. They dominated the stat sheet. If those teams played, they probably win 6 or 7 times. But it just feels like, we saw them in Four Nations, the game go to overtime. We saw the gold medal game go to OT. I just feel like every time those teams played with like that much on the line, all the games would be just must watch. And I just watched that, and that was my big takeaway is even though I'm not the biggest hockey guy, I'm like a lot of people where absolutely love the playoffs. I appreciate how incredible they are as athletes and all those sorts of things. Gene, I really think U.S.-Canada hockey is the best sporting event that we have. What are your thoughts on
Well, you're not going to get an argument from me. And the debate we've had here is the 3-on-3. Like when we get to the Stanley Cup Finals, it's 5-on-5. And you heard John Cooper. He said the right thing. It's like that product's better, but it's not an excuse. You know the rules going in. And by the way, Canada, you had McDavid, you had McKinnon, and McCarr all on the ice. Like and those were the guys who gave up the game-winning goal. So, like, you can't complain about that if you know the rules kind of going in. What I would say is for the NHL owners, PJ, to deprive us more than a decade of this because why? Because the games were in China, because they were in South Korea. You have to be kidding. No, the reason was because they don't like giving up their gates at this time of year, which I would say that's incredibly small thinking here. Yes, shut down the sport here for 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever it is. The growth opportunity is so much more. And I'm just hoping we get this for years from now when the Olympics will be in France.
Gene, 1,000%. Think about how many sports fans right now are looking up to see when Winnipeg are coming to their city so they can go see Hellebuck, or they're looking to see when the Devils are coming to their town so they can see Jack Hughes, right? I mean, just from that alone, like I can tell you as a Caps fan, I did that. I'm like, are the Jets coming? Is Hellebuck coming to town anytime? Like all these guys, right? So it's just so awesome for the sport. It's great. I mean, the game that they played was unbelievable. And again, hockey's one of those sports that I think as fans, if you're a sports fan and you watch the NHL playoffs, you know what an unbelievable product it is. But I just think, as we know, in America, of the big four, it's number 4 from a rating standpoint and how much people watch it. But, man, Gene, I just like USA and Canada. I think if you put all the big sporting events in the world together at the same time and that was on, I think that would get my big TV. I really do.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to push back because I think there is a cultural thing with hockey people, PJ, and this is me speaking, and I'm putting my name on this. There is you weren't with us from the beginning. No. You welcome people in. You welcome them in now, and guess what? If you're not familiar with the Stanley Cup playoffs, here they are. They're going to be in April. And compared to an NBA product where you're going to play the first round, over 3 weekends potentially? You will have games every other night for your favorite team. And you will have sometimes 4 games a night. So to me, like the Stanley Cup playoffs are superior to the NBA playoffs. The NBA finals are certainly interesting, but I just think that it's more, okay, let's get to the point here with the NBA. NHL is just way too much. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox. A couple more minutes with PJ Glasser. Golf. So this week, Palm Beach Gardens. Any thoughts here on what we could play here as they will be at the PGA National Resort here, PJ?
Yeah, we're entering the Florida swing, Gene. So obviously, we go to California to Florida, the grass changes and the weather conditions change and all those sorts of things. And after getting some heavy hitters in the fields the last couple weeks at Pebble and Riviera, a little bit of a lesser field this week. You got the Arnold Palmer Invitational coming up and the Players Championship as well. What you need to know about this course is that it is very difficult. There's just about danger lurking on every single hole, whether that's off the tee or whether they're hitting their iron shots into the green. There's pretty much water lurking and sand lurking every shot on this golf course. You can put up big numbers in a hurry. For people that are like casual sports fans, golf fans, like this is the course that has the famed bear trap on holes 15 through 17. So it's a tough course, Gene. I'm looking for really good ball strikers and really good iron players. I think Aaron Rye at 33-1 is a really good look. He's one of the premier iron players in the world, and he tends to play pretty well on these Florida golf courses. So I think Rye's a decent price at 33-1. If you want a longer shot, Jordan Smith at 50-1, I think is a good look. Right now on PGA statistics, Gene, he's number 1 in ball striking. So that's the premier category I'm looking at this week, is those elite ball strikers, guys that are great with their irons, guys that keep it in play off the tee. So Jordan Smith, Aaron Rye, a couple of Englishmen would be the 2 that I would look at this week.
And PJ, it's still a little too soon in my opinion. We're just getting started with baseball. But next week, I want to ask you about the World Baseball Classic, which will be starting, the end of next week, actually. And, just as you're kind of looking at some of these pretty pictures, and for folks who don't know, I'm a Mets fan. You are based in the Beltway. You're an O's fan. Are you enjoying your new first baseman that I hate when I blank out on the air like this. I cheered for the guy for how many years? The guy who just signed with the Baltimore Orioles, your first baseman, PJ.
Pete Alonso, Gene. He has been unbelievable. He hits a home run every day. You know who else has been looking good in the spring, Gene, has been Kobe Mayo has been terrific for the O's as well. So maybe we can get Mayo to be consistent this year, Alonso to be consistent. Maybe they can go like back-to-back, Gene. What a summer that would be in Baltimore if we can get Alonso and Mayo to get going.
Did you see who got traded back to Houston from Toronto? Joey Luperfido.
Joey Luperfido?
He's back in Houston, buddy.
Wow.
An all-time favorite of yours.
That is a good one. That is a good one.
PJ.
No, I'm enjoying Pete very much, though, Gene, very much.
Where can we find more of your content here, PJ? Tell everybody.
Yeah, you can check me out, Gene, Hoops and 5, doing a bunch of college hoops content on my YouTube channel. Just search PJ Glasser. And then Game Day Garage, we'll be doing some podcasts for them soon as we get closer and closer to March. And the madness, as you said, 3 days away, Gene. It'll be here. And conference tournaments, NCAA tournament over the next couple weeks. It's gonna be awesome.
PJ, always appreciate the time and the advice. Let's do this again next week. Thanks, bud.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks, Gene.
PJ Glasser, give him a follow on X as we approach March Madness. We will take a break. We'll set you up for tomorrow's show.
We might get our hand slapped, but we don't have time for a break. I got to press the button now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, Tim, as a producer, you're doing your fine job.
We'll try to do better tomorrow.
I got to promise on the show tomorrow. Combine talk tomorrow. Okay, let's get our head around like what's going on here. Zig Fracassi, Sirius XM, good friend of the show, known him for years, will be joining us tomorrow. If you missed any of today's show, download the Odyssey app. You can go back and listen, rewind up to 72 hours. Sabres tonight are over on CMF. Apparently, Tage Thompson is going to be playing. Andrew Mossbrooks and the Amerks. Apparently, the Amerks are dressing. I saw his tweet just now. 7 defenders, 11 forwards. Devin Levi will get the starting goal tonight. Amerks hockey on the air beginning at 7 o'clock here on the all-new WGR Rochester. Shope and the Bulldog coming your way next. My name is Gene Battaglia. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 1.
You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader,